Yep, now we're live once more. Welcome. Straight up, need to say one critical point. The previous days really have been immensely turbulent. Returned in the cyber tunnel. There are some differences here between the last time I was live and right here, right now. First, this is important I first mention as GEKIDO basis. Many things have changed. But it's hard to actually question if indeed it's plus or negative, being positive or negative in this situation. Let me elaborate. Outside of having fun, of course, doing two things, at Hollow Run earlier. Yes, and 12 indeed did get that record via sliding. One of them days, though, since, break records and stuff, never mind it. Still loyal to playing Counter-Strike 2, of course. He's had some ideas, too, of recent. He probably will do maybe minimum of only 2 sessions in the current season, or mini-season. Version 35, Fortnite, Battle Royale. Why say it in that context? You try to think the original Fortnite OG, right? Like the original Return to Athena Island that went for a month. That and Chapter 2 Remix. Yeah, the length of the next season, which it's more than simply, May the 4th, Star Wars Day and stuff. There's more really with, it looks, some parallels, I'd say, to the another season that it does have parallels to the industry itself. Another one. The presence of Emperor Palpatine itself. Darth Sidious, of course. Can't be ignored in that one. The other matter I need to then discuss. Have to do a to show a previous recording. There's roughly 8.5 minutes of this content. So I had to search for the point where it had to then start. By the way, before going on, using the most recent version of Audacity, I've officially made the choice in throwing away 2.42, or 2.4.2. Even though there are a couple of special plugins which are only exclusively for that legacy version of Audacity. But I just need to confirm to you folks, yeah, I did technically made the move, and it was tough, but it happened. That's that. It's time to run this pre-recorded file. So that's what I will do right here, right now. Close up the Discord channel before anything. Everything's clear. I'm out here now. I'll be off for a little period. I mean to do that transition. With this, yeah. No, that's a bit problematic. I'll just hit mute. Let's run the audio. Since what came down in late 2024 or 2025, probably the most unhinged I've ever been ever since I started this. No matter if it's me, GEKIDO basis, or 12, my real self. It makes no difference, of course, if you lack modularity or modularity in its own. We must stay real. We must stay analog to the game. And never drop. The assault on gamers about the absolute worst I have ever experienced in the history that I've been around doing this. To say I'm joking and making an excuse, you should wake up and understand. Our legacies have been assaulted, and at a greater degree than used to be, and is even more manifest and worsened within, AI technologies. Claiming I'm making this bull stuff up. Remember, folks, I never touched ChatGPT or other chatbot systems, let alone AI agents. And I refuse to conform in that sense. No way will I fall at that respect. I've already learned the path if you go down that way is a pitch black existence, the same as death. Do you want to waltz randomly to follow the leader to the edge of the earth, so to speak? Everyone falls to their death. It's never too late to turn back and look for alternative roads. I also recommend investigating. Who are you really? Discovering where you really fit in. Who likes your work? Who hates your work? Who is sick to their stomach to be supporting the real gamers that know what they've done and continue to do? Do you want to live like a fake? The legacy constantly getting raped from within you. All because it's a trendy thing. Would you throw your principles away just to get more respected to a larger group of fans while your own brain is so warped you become something completely different in time? Just because many of the truths I say backfired on me in the past, that does not mean there is no way I'm giving my fight up for nothing. This is the reality. We gamers have been at war for so long, but with the threat of AI, you don't see enough people in their places who set differences aside. Unite to fight for a cause that's bigger than they are. I'm serious. What then are you going to do? When the community all turn your back, but you're one of the few who still would support the player because he, she, or they experienced something which you yourself had actually experienced only recently and can relate. Others wouldn't care, and they would rather see you rotting underneath. Is this the circumstances to know that the art itself is actually harder than what others may suppose? If they're just blindly following just because they like the way that they look, then you should take a thorough look at yourselves. And focus how we do this work in the first place. rest assured, if you still think it's easier to start this, to run this stuff at either, 4K resolution or 2K resolution and streaming on YouTube, while also streaming and simulcasting, broadcasting, correct? Simulcasting, as well on Twitch or TikTok Live or on Facebook Gaming and or other services where you're simulcasting it through 3 or more sources, places. Never simple. Don't dare believe for an instant. We veterans are nothing but evil. I just say we wake up and try to at least fight against the tyranny and the evils underneath. There's way too much evil that actually exists in the system. Touhou himself actually had experienced an immense loss. It might seem insignificant to others, but a loss to a beloved machine, just disposed like trash, never to be recovered, was very profound. It was tough to support him. He had to fight this in his own way, claiming that, of course, they needed professional help to do this. It's not like they would be useful for helping them. So few of them even have been in that exact situation in the past. At least in the situation you let us store for more than 3 years, then suddenly it was just disposed like trash. Think the Toy Story 3 movie. That is exactly what I mean. Sobering, I know. These are the circumstances we sometimes are force-fed into. Don't let 12 try to get onto the mind of his own mind and explain explicitly what is unfolded. The stuff that, the Indian military, the striking areas in Pakistan, some for critical resources. I mean, who cares who's condemning what? The complexities of what's actually occurred recently must not be ignored, no matter what in the world anyone says. That's all at the moment. I need to do a stream. The stream in question, it's this one right here, right now. It was only put in a pre-recorded vid. If you do excuse me, I need to temporarily just put the screen off. It's critical at remembering whose project it really is. It's a shared one between myself and the Arnold Live 12 Multimedia Project. Or whatever, forget. It's a sister channel. Incidentally, I should also have added, given it's the first time I've technically used the Wallpaper Engine, and isn't that familiar to the real specific matters at hand. One moment. Speaking. Adjusting recording threshold. Check system. through the Scarlet Solo Generation 3 auto interface. The gain on input 1, roughly 30%. Screen test! Nothing's fully checked out as yet. Just observing the readings, checking the recording volumes. Check's clear. I can put that screen back right now. It's intentional, believe me. But this is where it gets interesting. I'll fade that out again. I do have another source in here. Stand by, folks. I did this some time ago, around August, I think. Another for this other project in my other channel. Not that I would advise others to get into it. All I'm saying, though, is it's really where, because there's some obscure stuff that I think is great. Some great stuff, bad stuff. I mean, duality of it. A little high pressure. I repeat, though. Did another series that's known as GBP series, as in the GEKIDO Basis project. Let me show you other players exactly what it is that I had run previously. I don't very often do this, but I do respect a lot of the assets I own and create. Other way around, actually, it should be own and create. Show the first one. I'll immediately hit Control F upon release. Resize the image a little. A bit of an overscan effect. And Control D. That is a little excessive. I could do with other files. Which reminds me too. It isn't broken, but that was, of course, of the visual for the GEKIDO Basis project. And I'll just repeat. September the 4th, 2024, that the files are actually were created. What's just showing here? If you do judge on the factors, well, point out where, at the time I'd done this channel. Had still been in the middle to the, both Fortnite experience, as well as X-Defiant when it still was around. Even now, that there were still great memories of the game, not only by my own hands, but of 12's hands, you know, in this project and the I've told multimedia project. So, let me just, this I'll just do briefly. Just let these 20 seconds of audio pass through, and then run the full loop again in a moment. Just cut the mic off. You'll hear it louder when the loop is finished, and then you'll hear it in full, sort of full level. Here it goes. Yeah, but what else then I would repeat? Does have a full series of assets. Sure, it didn't get much what you call... Just trying to see the correct term here. Of a presence or activity on my own part as part of that sister project of the Arnold Laptop Multimedia Project. But at any case, still a one-man project even after all this time. It was establishment way back in 2010. But even those times, it was explicitly a gaming project. But the career was... pretty short-lived, if I be honest. Not only was there so much toxicity within the community in his local area, it contemplated suicide as well. It's not only these circumstances to be putting into effect either. There's no way he gave up his own fight, though it took a longer time than usual really to be this established, at least in his own head. But then in claiming, of course, this matter is simple. To, then claim, of course, that we're just simple like the rest of them. Well, we need to be careful. Avoiding those same pitfalls. At the time this was up, there was many chaotic other things going on at the same time. Keeping in mind, so there was a fresh new season of Apex Legends that dropped. It's a project that I think should have been dead a while back, like Destiny 2 and Bungie itself. That's my opinion. But secondly, a new can of worms recently was opened up of the launch of the Switch 2 console and other things. But at the same time as well, there was a different war that has manifested. At the moment, I'm still actively boycotting the actual console. For the time being, not to own one. For a little while. There's too many other uncertainties within the technology sector. Though, the matter of inflation couldn't be helped. And it was nothing to do, of course, in general with the technology sector, unlike what I've been seeing. The matters of the trade war just perpetuated and made things worse. And even more so, shortly after, to the prices of both PlayStation 5 machines as well as blanket increase in general. The blanket increase with Xbox stuff in general. Consoles and accessories and games. Was not some joke that I read? About an hour or maybe 2 hours after it was posted, yeah. Through a couple of critical sources. Yeah. In the 1st of May. That's exactly what it said. Would never drop the Xbox series of consoles. Or line of consoles. The legacy's too deep. At the same time, there's other histories too, which I would never drop for anything. But also to think, them large and in charge types. Bah. Real scary, really. The presence as well as TikTok Live, albeit I hadn't felt it as significantly as yet, but later down the road it will take far greater hold than I think the majority of others may suppose. I can still see the dangers within. If the hints with the Studio Ghibli trend, AI art trend as well as, like that AI Barbie, the AI action figures trend was an indicator. And the eventual transition to many players in society from leaving the chat bots to AI agents. For many who transition quickly, others more progressive and or cautiously. Either way, we're still gonna stick around and treat the other players like dirt. It does remind me too. There's another filter I've also utilized. I'm just gonna weaken the effect. I need to just monitor this. Put the volume of this up full tilt. Checking. Never. Do I have to monitor something else? I don't see this as very effective. Excuse me, I just want to remove this. Put the compressor back. Pull this one a little back. That will do. Temporarily put this straight off. For the record, it will take some time. Fix these parameters up. Need another check. Check. Seems RTR. Can put this back. It'll take... The matter itself may take some time, really, to have the kinks cleared up. Remember, though, in some circumstances, yeah, I know what I would have then planned to do. Even so, it isn't like I'm ignorant. And sometimes I don't even know if others have graduated or on a big hiatus of their own, because sometimes I don't know. Look, there's a lot of guesses. If some return, well, hey, that's great. For many, it's personal, so there's no real reason to get involved in that. Because in my projects, it's mainly to just concentrate in how I feel and what I do under some circumstances. It's not popular every time, I know. It is how it is. Well, if I did then state where I had all the components to this new computer all now purchased and ready to assemble. It is indeed a fact. Probably cost a little more than the actual price in general. There is another critical story I want to now read to you players. There's 2 articles that I'm reading on this. That's related to SAGAFTRA. Ready, folks? First, Games Hub article. I'm only going to read the headline and the first sentence of each. Games Hub article. Gen AI remains major obstacle in SAG-AFTRA voice actor negotiations. The SAG-AFTRA has pushed back on a move by video game publishers to publicly release a quote-unquote best and last offer to striking video game voice actors. The other and Variety article. Video game companies release final offer to SAG-AFTRA addressing AI demands amid 9-month strike. The major video game companies involved in negotiations with SAG-AFTRA have made their final offer in negotiations to end the actors' strike. The damage already... Not to say it's impacting only the actual companies. Think of some of the streamers of recent. Whatever the circumstance. Still gonna read on. You still can't lie, however. System shock, Just for the record, hence I didn't actually read new information in respects to Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet game. Didn't hear nothing new yet. Still, it's been developed, and we already know who. The company. Right. I'll check one other article and just explain headline and sentence here. AI has joined... Oh, this is a week ago. AI has joined the game. How artificial intelligence is changing the video game industry. Artificial intelligence promises to make games more exciting and easier to build, even amid worries about its effects on the industry's job market. Using AI content tastefully, that's great. Sometimes I don't recognize the differences. Generative AI stories next. I can't actually then show it in this circumstance. A couple of other streams of copyrighted contents on them, so this is the only way I'm gonna have to do it. That's fine. You just have to bear with that fact. New stories. Legend of Generative AI. I'll read them as I will. Fine. Let's do something a bit more rote. Analytics Inside article. Beyond Automation. Architecting the Autonomous Enterprise with Generative AI. Generative AI is reshaping how enterprises operate, make decisions, and manage data with secure, adaptive systems built for long-term value and growth. And that was it, but... Right, HRWorld.com article. Unlocking Productivity. A C-suite playbook to generative AI skills training. Generative AI is reshaping work, demanding new skills and prompting ethical judgment and digital fluency. And speaking of the integration inside many businesses, both large and small. you folks already have heard of Gemini 2.5. It does feel it's almost reached the creative peak at that respect. Yes, Business Today. Google Cloud India Summit 2025, empowering India's tech ecosystem with generative AI. You folks would have heard things like this before, what I'm about to say now. The spotlight of this year's summit is Gemini 2.5, Google Cloud's latest and most advanced generative AI model to date. Right, yep, next one. Open Source for You article. The power of open source generative AI and large language models. There's one sentence down here, it just reads this. Open source large language models are at the forefront of the generative AI revolution. Still, some content might not exactly be what I would describe as free, or even shareable. But some ulterior motives do sometimes, no offense here, malicious. I'll move on anyway. DigiDay article next. From hype to reality. AI in publishing by the numbers. Now, it explains about there's some numbers to know around AI technologies' increasingly clear impact on publishers. This is traffic and content scraping. Yeah, it's the ones that want to read it. Anyway, many of these, well, it's a little, I don't know, egregious and might be a little, I don't know, unrealistic. I see. The situation isn't always simple to read all these things. Critical thinking is, well, no offense, still, it's still very important. Remaining as free as you can be. But not to be thinking, of course, in the herd mentality all the time. Too bad, hence what I've seen on some circles as well. They sometimes just chase for the different hype machines that exist. When they come, they sometimes jump. I ain't like that. And I still hate some of the motives on that. But if something tickles me fancy, yeah, I'll just jump in and play it. Doesn't exactly mean that I actually love everything I see or play or do. That does remind me, just by chance, I'm gonna check the Touhou wiki. And that has been around for a very, very, very long time. I'll just check something from inside that just before I advance to the next topic. There was a brand new upcoming Touhou project game indeed has come. I can show you later exactly which ones. They call it... Give me a moment while I try to get the name proper. I don't talk native Japanese, you know. Oops. You get to try the demo when it does come. Touhou Kinji Yo Kyo, I think. One moment, I'm still trying to get the terms correct. Yeah. It reads as such here on the Touhou website. If you've never heard the news, I'll tell you folks now. The Reitaisai had come, I think. Reitaisai 22? Was it Nishini or something like that? I can't remember. So it reads as this. Touhou Kinjokyo Fossilized Wonders. The 20th official installment of the Touhou project, announced at Touhou Yomoyama News on April 12, 2025, and released just recently, 5th of May. The demo, I mean. And somewhere in August, of course, will be the full version, in Comiket 106. Yes. Fine. Listen. As further proof that I'm actually reading this from the official Touhou wiki page, so I'll open up the video on the other computer right now. Stand by, folks. It might not work at first. Nope. Stand by. If it shows up, it shows up. It's coming in. There. Let's not zoom that in a fair bit. I'll just verify this, folks. Just here. You see? The announcement was down here. I missed that, actually, the first time I saw that. But yeah, that's the official point. I'll just keep reading on. The gameplay. Yep, there are two main characters, Reimu Hakure and Marisa Kirisame. The player can additionally select a main story stone as a secondary weapon with gameplay altering effects. Concept. Now, for the 20th main Touhou project installment, Zun intended to go back to the basics, with only Reimu and Marisa as playable characters. He described the gameplay style as particularly orthodox, you know. The typical Touhou style? Yeah. The story, at least as it shows here. A little-known incident is occurring within the sanctuary land at the foot of Yokai Mountain. Reimu and Marisa must utilize mysterious stones imbued with the powers of previous incidents in order to challenge this new threat. The press. It's right on the bottom. Reading the following, anyway. Fossilized Wonders was first announced on April 12th, 2025 at Touhou Yomoyama News. A demo version was released on May 5, 2025 at Reitaisai 22. The full version will be available in August 2025 at Comiket 106. Patches just, in the page if others want to see. Or it's free to, of course, just to extract the screen, hit print the screen, do whatever you want. Still it says, a Doujin project. Even now. 30 years. It's about that long now it's been around. The way that at least I read when the very first iteration came. You know, PC 9.8 era games. Anyway, additional information. The Japanese title, Kinjou Kyo, refers to the Japanese idiom, Kinjou Tenka, crowning beauty with even greater glory. It also contains the phrase, Jokyo, going to the capital. The letters of Zun are subtly incorporated into the title screen background near the bottom right corner. Similar to a broadcast, just like what I'm doing with my own GEKIDO Basis project logo underneath. Shows arranging the names too. Others who don't want to see the spoilers, cover your eyes. Spoilers do end on that point. The specific names of other, enemies, and bosses and so on in the demo. Yet to play that, just for the record. It's only really available on those discs. Could be distributed if others want to. This reminds me too. Here's exactly what the image is. Just the others who wanted to see for themselves. That will be it. Return back to the core screen. Still reading on the stories of generative AI and the circumstances, so I'll still keep on reading. There's one task I need to deact first. Really would actually activate it for the situation. One moment, need to just briefly leave. There'll be no waveforms for a while. No, I'd only assume whether I had to just wait for specific manifestations to happen in a very specific order. It feels like some stuff was predictable. Nearly 4 o'clock, I noticed. That's crazy. And VentureBeat article, I'm just checking. AWS report. Generative AI overtakes security in global tech budgets for 2025. New AWS report reveals 45% of global IT leaders now prioritize generative AI over cybersecurity in 2025. Tech budgets, as companies race hiring, well, now I'm going to just check this in further detail. Something about the race to hiring AI talent and other experts in the field, I can assume. I'll just then read up the article. It's a Venture Beat article, but I'll read it for you folks. Yeah, that AWS report, generative AI overtakes security in global tech budgets for 2025. Another very recent article. Fine, I'll just read on. Generative AI tools have surpassed cybersecurity as the top budget priority for global IT leaders heading into 2025, according to a comprehensive news study released today by Amazon Web Services. Well, yesterday, actually. That was on the 6th. Today's the 7th. Very recent, though. The AWS Generative AI Adoption Index, which surveyed 3,739 senior IT decision makers across 9 countries, reveals that 45% of organizations plan to prioritize generative AI spending over traditional IT investments like security tools. A significant shift in corporate technology strategies as businesses race to capitalize on AI's transformative potential. In the lines here, Rahul Pathak, the Vice President of Generative AI and AI, ML, go-to-market at AWS. I was interviewed, a Venture Beat interview, saying the following lines here. I don't think it's cause for concern. The way I interpret that is that customers' security remains a massive priority. What we're seeing with AI being such a major item from a budget prioritization perspective is that customers are seeing so many use cases for AI. It's really that there is a broad need to accelerate adoption of AI that's driving that particular outcome. And move on now. The extensive survey conducted across USA, Brazil, Canada, France, Germany, India, Japan, South Korea, and the United Kingdom shows that generative AI adoption has reached a critical inflection point with 90% of organizations now deploying these technologies in some capacity. More tellingly, 44% have already moved beyond the experimental phase into production deployment. As AI initiatives scale across organizations, new leadership structures are emerging to manage the complexity. The report found that 60% of organizations have already appointed a dedicated AI executive, such as a Chief AI Officer, a CAIO, with another 26% planning to do so by next year. This executive-level commitment reflects growing recognition of AI's strategic importance. Though the study notes that nearly 1/4 of organizations will still lack formal AI transformation strategies by 2026, suggesting potential challenges in change management. Quote from the report. A thoughtful change management strategy will be critical. The ideal strategy should address operating model changes, data management practices, talent pipelines, and scaling strategies. Organizations conducted an average of 45 AI experiments in 2024, but only about 20 are expected to reach end users the year after. highlighting persistent implementation challenges. More from Pathak. Word for word here. For me to see over 40% going into production for something that's relatively new, I actually think is pretty rapid and high success rate from an adoption perspective. That said, I think customers are absolutely using AI in production at scale, and I think we want to obviously see that continue to accelerate. End quote. I'll only read a little further. There's plenty more on the story. Just read it as it is. The report identified talent shortages as the primary barrier to transitioning experiments into production, with 55% of respondents citing the lack of a skilled generative AI workforce as their biggest challenge. And more from Pathak. I don't think I'm going to read any further after this. I'd say another big piece that's an unlock to getting into production successfully is customers really working backwards from what business objectives they're trying to drive, and then also understanding how will AI interact with their data. It's really when you combine the unique insights you have about your business and your customers with AI that you can drive a differentiated business outcome. Excuse me. Some other... excuse me. Now, in this point, be probably wise to go this way. Specific segments I'll just read of the rest of this. It's actually a pretty deep read. 92% of organizations will hire AI talent in 2025, while 75% implement training to bridge skills gap. So, addressing that said skills gap, organizations are pursuing dual strategies of internal training and external recruitment. The survey found that 56% of organizations have already developed generative AI training plans, with another 19% planning to do so by the end of the year. The talent push extends beyond training to aggressive hiring, with 92% of organizations planning to recruit for roles requiring generative AI expertise in 2025. In a quarter of organizations, at least 50% of new positions will require these skills. Just then read this little headline as well. Financial services joins hybrid AI revolution. Only 25% of companies building solutions from scratch. The long-running debate over whether to build proprietary AI solutions or leverage existing models appears to be resolving in favor of a hybrid approach. Only 25% of organizations plan to deploy solutions developed in-house from scratch, while 58% intend to build custom applications on pre-existing models, and 55% will develop applications on fine-tuned models. This represents a notable shift for industries traditionally known for custom development, mostly proprietary stuff. The report found that 44% of financial services firms plan to use out-of-the-box solutions, a departure from the historical preference for proprietary systems. Next, little headline. India leads global AI adoption at 64%, with South Korea following at 54%, outpacing Western markets. While generative AI investment is a global trend, the study revealed regional variations in adoption rates. The USA showed 44% of organizations prioritizing generative AI investments, aligning with the global average of 45%, but India and South Korea demonstrated significantly higher rates, which I just said earlier. %65% of organizations will rely on third-party vendors to accelerate AI implementation this year. As organizations navigate the complex AI landscape, they increasingly rely on external expertise. The report found that 65% of organizations will depend on third-party vendors to some extent in 2025, with 15% planning to rely solely on vendors and 50% adopting a mixed approach combining in-house teams and external partners. The imperative to act now or risk being left behind. Yeah, it's an abnormally deep interview. There's a lot of those many is indirect quotes from that expert. The business-first approach to AI success. The AWS report paints a portrait of generative AI's rapid evolution from cutting-edge experiment to fundamental business infrastructure. As organizations shift budget priorities, restructure leadership teams, and race to secure AI talent, the data suggests we've reached a decisive tipping point in enterprise AI adoption. Yet amid the technological gold rush, the most successful implementations will likely come from organizations that maintain a relentless focus on business outcomes rather than technological novelty. See? One final paragraph before I close that said article. In the end, the companies that thrive won't necessarily be those with the biggest AI budgets or the most advanced models, but those that most effectively harness AI to solve real business problems with their unique data assets. In this new competitive landscape, the question is no longer whether to adopt AI, but how quickly organizations can transform AI experiments into tangible business advantage before their competitors do, and that's it. The door's closed with that article. But it's much more arduous a read than you might point out. I've read a little over half of that article. Still, that just points a hint about a few things. That's actually an article that come around roughly 11 hours ago, actually. This points out one story. So here's another new article I've only, a little while, it's roughly almost 12 hours ago, as of the time of this podcast / stream, live stream. Yes, the journal, THE journal probably, no, yes, THE journal, Technological Horizons in Education. Meta introduces a standalone AI app. It launched a standalone artificial intelligence app built on its proprietary Llama 4 model. And, well, it's just another, member of the community of all these digital Large Hadron Colliders that are around. In other words, it feels it's starting to really take shape. And even on the points of how much they still hallucinate here and there, according to some of the research I've read up on. Mind the gaps. Might have to take a snack. Still tough work. I didn't say I'm a joker and saying nothing on the matter. IBM is one other company that I had actually noticed that's thrusting within. Maybe it isn't absolutely accurate, but it's still, well, still a big deal in its own way. 2 other new articles come around here. Just reading them now. Only, the headline and the sentences. Yourstory.com has come out 7 minutes ago, as of this recording. Broadcast live stream, whatever. WhatsApp to launch AI-generated chat backgrounds via Meta AI. Well, from a report. WhatsApp is developing a new feature that uses Meta AI to generate personalized chat wallpapers from text prompts, expanding its integration of, well, other generative AI technology or whatever. Technologies or whatever. IT Brief Australia article. Forrester names AI agentic systems and robotics. Top for 2025, or it doesn't exactly really make, well, linguistic sense. The context, I probably said it incorrectly. Well, move on now. Forrester names AI, synthetic data, agentic AI, and humanoid robots as top emerging technologies for 2025. I have to be quite honest. I'll check what exactly that's about. Don't know what kind of company they really are. Anyway, I'll go on ahead and I'll just read it up. Very recently published, so here it goes. Alright, I'll just read this article as I'll do my best to make as much sense on this. But that same one I just mentioned. Forrester has identified the top 10 emerging technologies for 2025, highlighting that artificial intelligence is shifting from experimentation to a fundamental business requirement. The research reveals that AI is progressing from generative AI models to agentic AI systems capable of independent decision-making, and underlines the increasing relevance of synthetic data and humanoid robots. Sci-fi stuff? Building this kind of future still scares the daisies out of me, I can tell you. More than the contrary. According to Forrester's latest report, Asian Pacific enterprises are largely aligned with global technology trends, but are also shaped by unique regional conditions, including data sovereignty laws, significant government involvement, and a preference for longer-term returns on investment. This is Frederick Giron, Vice President and Senior Research Director at Forrester, commented to this. Asia-Pacific enterprises broadly align with global emerging tech trends, but distinct regional preferences are shaping how these technologies are adopted. Enterprises are prioritizing localized AI models to navigate linguistic and regulatory diversity, leveraging hybrid cloud and edge architectures for data sovereignty and adopting synthetic data as a privacy-native AI enabler. There is strong government orchestration, particularly in mature markets, which is helping drive AI adoption in the region. Additionally, enterprises tend to have longer ROI horizons compared to North America, reflecting strategic patience over quick wins. Gen AI for language is gaining traction in customer service, compliance, and multilingual support, while Gen AI for visual content is advancing marketing, design, and manufacturing. The rise of Internet of Things security is being accelerated by government-led cybersecurity initiatives, as enterprises embed AI into threat detection strategies. Meanwhile, agentic AI is emerging in early applications such as IT operations and financial automation, and humanoid robotics is drawing pragmatic interest in elder care, hospitality, and public services, though still in its experimental phases. The principal analyst, Leslie Joseph, provided further insight into adoption patterns across Asia Pacific that notes this. Financial services, healthcare, and manufacturing are leading adoption of agentic AI and synthetic data in APAC, the Asia Pacific area. Demand is driven by a mix of regulatory compliance, productivity gains, and innovation mandates. In Singapore, for example, banks use agents for compliance and automation. Healthcare players use synthetic data to sidestep privacy constraints, and manufacturers deploy agents for predictive operations and digital twins. Regional firms balance near-term ROI and long-term innovation through public-private R&D programs, research and development programs, and regulatory sandboxes. Regional leaders face fragmented digital maturity, but national AI agendas and talent constraints are pushing enterprises to explore, and in some cases begin the push for adoption of agentic systems for strategic differentiation. Government-backed initiatives like AI Verify provide safe experimentation zones, while rising regional competition is accelerating enterprise willingness to modernize. Well, for some laymen, it's content heavy. They would have hardly any idea what this is about. Those few would relate. The Forrester Research categorizes the top emerging technologies by projected benefits over short-term, mid-term, and long-term horizons to help enterprises and business leaders focus their investments. Short-term technologies expected to provide substantial advantages within 2 years include Internet of Things security, IoT security, and synthetic data. IoT security has become particularly important as cyber threats increase, with businesses possessing high levels of technology integration expected to benefit most. Synthetic data is highlighted for its role in improving AI model training and enhancing trust and privacy, especially pertinent to industries such as financial services, insurance, healthcare, and the public sector. Regulatory authorities are reported to encourage the use of synthetic data to help reduce risk. Mid-term, between 2 to 5 years. Agentic AI and generative AI for visual content are expected to bring significant productivity and personalization gains. Agentic AI, while still requiring improvements in accuracy and coordination, offers the potential for systems that can autonomously drive business process automation. Generative AI for visual content is anticipated to transform the production of photorealistic images, videos, and graphics, with the most impact likely in marketing, advertising, retail, and e-commerce. True, there's other instances that I don't even really know the differences. Yeah, a few things I was fooled on, but I do like some things they promote. I'm done of those in-jokes people asking why, of course, they fight. I'm fine, though, but it's just complicated, all this stuff. About to move on. Next paragraph. For the longer term, expected to take at least 5 years to deliver enterprise value, humanoid robots make their first appearance on the emerging technologies list. Forrester's report states that advances in generative AI and decreasing component costs are making such robots more feasible. However, challenges around research and development expenses and integration complexities remain significant barriers to widespread adoption, at least as of this time. Won't be as problematic in 2029, 2030, compared to where it is right at this current period. Two final paragraphs here. Sharon Lever, Chief Research Officer at Forrester, stated this. As AI becomes ubiquitous, business and technology leaders should prioritize investments that will deliver the greatest impact for their organizations in terms of driving business growth, innovation, and competitive advantage. Despite global uncertainty, AI's rapid acceleration will continue. Enterprises that strategically balance AI innovation with risk mitigation will be ones that successfully thrive and achieve sustainable growth. Free for all, more or less, huh? That's until, of course, those contestants, of course, are narrowed to, say, I don't know, 5? But what lights do they see at the end of the tunnel, How would I know? It's too early to even see that. You can't really rush art, and you know it. Final paragraph, then. The report concludes that as the technological landscape continues to evolve, enterprises are increasingly required to adopt AI advancements rapidly, with strategic investment decisions becoming central to navigating continued geopolitical volatility and achieving long-term growth. The door's closed on that article, but still, I can definitely relate to the story. 2/3, maybe almost 3/4 of those situations. Just as a ballpark. Well, this other article, fine. I didn't have intentions, excuse me, only reading of both the headline and the sentence below it. In yourstory.com article, but I won't read the actual article. As far as if I want to check it anyway. WhatsApp to launch AI-generated chat backgrounds via Meta AI report. WhatsApp is developing a new feature that uses Meta AI to generate personalized chat wallpapers from text prompts, expanding its integration of generative AI tools. Yep, no intentions to read it any further there. Finished on reading them particular articles. Let's see. Another, well, a few of these articles do occasionally show, don't they? Scams is what I mean. I'll just read these two articles. Done this actually as a rehearsal, but I'll do it again. News article. It's relating of more of these stuff about bet game of chance stuff. Fake betting games using AI-generated fake videos of Pakistani actors to scam users. Several fraudulent mobile games available on the Google Play Store are deceiving Pakistani users with false promises of instant wealth, using deep fakes, really, I think of actors and other celebrities and so on, I would assume. Among other stories on members around Microsoft, which is speaking of whether or not deliberate the intention in not forcing AI technologies from inside of Microsoft itself. You just never know where there's uses, though, but it's not to say it's a missed opportunity. Some old-fashioned. It's how it is. The other article in terms... Sorry. That same article I mentioned. Pro-Pakistani article. Betting games are using fake AI videos of Pakistani actors for promotion. Fraudulent mobile betting games on the Google Play Store are using fake AI-generated videos of Pakistani actors to lure unsuspecting users, well, on this sort of scams and such things. Isn't that quite funny? It's perhaps a very obscure thing for some audiences out here. From someone's hobby project, doing some AI generated other variation, Pong, you remember the Pong game? Yeah. In the case of with the project, there was somebody which done commentating a game of Pong, I think. Yeah, while players are either playing in real time, and I don't know if this also applies where AI programs can do that too. Many of these stories is relating in this story with a few executive or higher ups speaking of that Microsoft isn't mandating or to make a compulsory requirement to put AI tools and other material contents inside of production works from these companies. But that's... It's never fully guaranteed. The fact that they're more open than the other gaming companies at that respect is, well, not exactly the boldest thing, but important. This applies, in numerous other industries. Some still wouldn't really know how to cover it all up. Just a little other, some other article, just to check, Now, just reading this article, but it's back from a couple days back. A Dev Discourse article. How AI-driven educational games improve writing across the curriculum. Crucially, both teachers and parents pointed to the need for games that could encourage authentic writing tasks. Numerous, I guess, sort of subjects in schools where certain very specific such actions would be at least enforced. Still experimental, I can tell you players now. Another interesting, little story, but this is about a week back. May as well just still say it anyway. Only the headline for this. It's from WikFic Tech, the WCCF Tech. The WikF Tech, or WCCF Tech. Epic Games won't stop AI-generated thumbnails on Fortnite. It says Gen AI will become more and more difficult to detect. The sophistication of the technologies, yeah. Harder for discerning what's, real and what's AI generated, as I've already said numerous times in the past. I wouldn't really know if it's a full-blown rumor that I'm about to just check again. There wasn't really much new information regarding the upcoming Panther Lake CPU. Intel's upcoming series of CPUs. Powering the motherboards and all that. No point then to lie, I'm now effectively caught up on those stories. Now, why am I sort of just a little... just... to find a situation of recent what the Indian military had done. That's complicated to ask who's going to blink first. That's what I fear it's become, really, between these exchanges between those two militaries and the other operators working in the shadows, so to speak. Is it liberation? expand and escalate a civil war from underneath to something very sinister. You don't need to get me started exactly the emotions I and 12 both are feeling in direct relation to how there's so little active area inside of Gaza, for one thing. The less about that subject, the better, I'd say. Very specific lines, I think, would have to remain through private channels in that respect. That is why I won't say too much on that. On, of course, many of these SNSs, there are very specific things you're not exactly allowed to get away with saying, of course. Will be easy to be visiting, of course, that obsidian blackness pretty easily for a while anyway. It is still critical, of course, staying true to your own principles. It might not seem simple, particularly to a naive and inexperienced players, where if they say some of those things, they have no idea that they actually are in trouble and all these things. But it's hard because even us experienced players sometimes are able to let stuff slip, and it still gets picked up. That's a bit different, really. Observed, in the circumstances of one of these streamers, this 21:9 ultra wide screen, letterboxed, of course, inside of 16:9 format. Let's still read 1920 by 1080 resolution instead of, say, I don't know, roughly, I'm just guessing, 1920 by 818. If you excuse me. Need a utility calculator just to verify. Excuse me. No, that's approximately, in fact, 1920 by 822. It's still very fractionally anamorphic. Some of them authoritative fools need to shut their mouths up. Did they actually care about the actual situation that just suddenly escalated? I think that's naive. Who's the mouthpiece speaking? I hate just to be force-fed at hearing that. Even now. No, I don't really get what is with some of these other politicians, but I'm already sick and tired. Urinating, basically, in a large ocean of destruction. I'm tired of it. almost nothing in changing the cycle. For the moment, though, I didn't actually then forget, I mean, up in the Vatican, of course, their selection for the new pontiff is still, in progress at the time of this live stream, this broadcast, but no forgiveness and, well, no relent either. But others are learning the hard way already. Wow. The severity of some of these situations might be enough to knock some people may knock their heads on the wall. There are other ways to at least remedy your mind. I mean, it's worse though when very few, or even nobody, nearby can relate to the struggle you feel. More specifically, victims using AI, but they don't know that there are too many malicious actors working behind the scenes, and they don't care. They don't believe it, or don't actually accept that reality themselves. That's what really does get to me. Some circumstances won't stop until, of course, that they fully recognize which allegiance that they actually had been supporting. Some is for the greater good, no joke. There are a few who are actually informed about those differences. In the society around, however, way too many are just naive and they just don't really see the forest for the trees, really. And it's a shame. The cycle sometimes feels it's just inevitable that that's where some societies are going. In sync at the moment. One advantage to check two players on a little collab that have DVR actually on their respective streams. Now it's in absolute sync with each other. It's Apex Legends Season 25, except I still do see a handful of the elite in that project. Yeah, I'd still defend that the actual game itself really should have been dead a while ago, in my honest opinion, but if it's around, well, then there's still a following, but I am still of the explicit opinion that the balance is extremely messy. It hasn't really changed in 6 months, maybe 7 months. This still seems like there's a niche, however. Is it just to adapt? Still wouldn't exaggerate given to many still gives them purpose at the least. Can say in a similar respect, doing this sort of work, commentary and free talking, but I prefer to monologue like this. It's a really complex system where difficult to trust many players nowadays because of some of their ulterior motives. There's some where they're hidden different emotions within. That importance controlling the individual, no matter if you go as soft as a little whistle, a whisper, or as loud as some massive cannon just erupting bombs, verbal bombs more than actual other bombs outside, if that makes sense. But just being dynamic on that respect is a very tough one, too. To others, on one end, the hype in relation of the Switch 2 console. The other, on new news in respect to Grand Theft Auto 6. And I'll never stop my boycott of that project. No, I won't. In any case, sure, don't then think I'm not around to be ignorant. Need to do something. One moment while just doing this little update. Crazy, I know. Yeah, they're not stuck with too many. Yeah, no, it's still difficult. Sometimes just to effectively answer what you have to then answer. Others have terrible attention spans as well, as I sometimes do realize. Being very informed on many, direct subjects to this coexistence can make or break when focusing on the much deeper mechanism from within. Yes. There's not too much I can advise at the current situation. It's been tough to stay informed really on a range of the stories. Many that's difficult to avoid given that the many waves of AI slop and other crap through the internet continues pushing. Some of you have no idea who the actual actors or users doing it is. Beyond this, if you still are willing, of course, to sacrificing critical thinking just to be staying relevant, you watch how it bites back in the next months, perhaps next years. There is no real way in the current situation that will happen. For the record, I do not use chatbots or AI agents. Barely, in fact. I live and stay in the old school line of thinking, as if I'd change that to maintain relevancy. No matter if it's my persona or 12's persona on the other project. Unvarnished truth in the situation will remain. I still say analog mind does matter. There are many lines of information we analogs can say that cannot be duplicated. Absolutely, in the situation. And therein does lie that difference. And respect and love as much as what you do own. To never throw stuff like that away, like what 12 told me of his story that was harrowing, and maybe a lesson to telling others in the near future. That there may be some instances that they may dispose some of that stuff that you used to love just as trash. Given it's important to still label some things that you still own. You still have a say. You can't just then forget about where if you still own the stuff, you can still control it. Of course, it isn't the first time where such a circumstance actually happened. In time, of course, you just eventually have to come to accept the terms of the circumstances that had happened. But it's not always easy. There are ones which are extremely personal to the user. But then to say, underneath all that it's deserved, when they have no clue how it happened, sometimes proves others only care for the attention and do not give one iota to the mind of the player. But even now, I still say to be familiar of how the players play is critical. But not everybody is ones who are loyal in that respect. In some circumstances, the best thing other viewers can do is simply shut up and watch them. It's a bit extreme, but sometimes that's better than to say a lot of rather vulgar things to the other players that actually have an impact to the user. The stream's over. I'm closing it now. But I'm leaving only the screen. Stand by. It's had an exclusive video to do this. I didn't have this installed, but it's pretty easy. I'm just about to close this. But I'm using the very specific custom one that I designed for the GEKIDO Basis project. Yeah, and the timer too. No, excuse me, I just had to reset this. It's just a mistake, it's nothing exactly explicit. Well, the stream's over. That is it. See you folks next time. Stream is over. Close it.